There's something almost comforting about a pantry shelf. Cans lined up neatly ready for the moment when hunger comes calling. For many families, canned chili has been a steady companion, hearty, filling, simple. A quick pop of the lid, a few minutes on the stove, and warmth fills the kitchen. But not every can tells the story you think it does. Some carry secrets that sit in silence like a shadow in the night. They don't shout, they don't warn, they wait. And when those truths come forward, the comfort of chili turns sharp. It burns not with spice, but with the sting of disappointment and the heat of betrayal. We've eaten these brands for decades, sometimes passing them down like family habits. Yet trust can sour. Behind those familiar labels hide risks that can spoil dinner or worse. Tonight we open that door. We'll uncover 7 canned chili brands you should avoid at all costs, and 2 that still deserve a place at your table. 1 Wolf brand chili. Open the can, no ceremony, no comfort, just that hiss of metal and the rush of steam. What's inside isn't always supper. Sometimes it's a warning in disguise. And with Wolf brand chili, that warning comes loud and clear the moment you look past the cowboy image on the label and stare at the numbers on the back. 1 serving of Wolf's chili can pack over 1,000 milligrams of sodium. That's nearly a day's worth of salt for someone watching their heart. And here's the trick: they call it 1 serving, but most of us eat the whole can. That pushes the salt load past the safe zone before you even add a cracker on the side. Doctors and heart groups have been shouting for years too much sodium fuels high blood pressure, strokes, heart attacks. Yet the cans keep coming stacked high in the grocery aisle, selling themselves as tradition. This isn't an accident. Salt is the cheapest flavor there is. It hides the shortcuts. It makes processed meat taste beefier than it is. It lets a company stretch soy protein and starch into something that looks like hearty chili. And for decades, Wolf brand has wrapped all that up in a Texas story talking about heritage and authenticity when the real recipe is engineered for profit. Think about the neighbor down the street. He grew up with chili bubbling all afternoon in a pot. He trusts that familiar red can because it feels like a piece of home. But what he doesn't see is that every bite piles on sodium he doesn't need. For a man already on blood pressure meds, that's not comfort food. That's playing dice with his own heart. What burns here isn't the chili spice. It's the betrayal. A brand that markets itself as the taste of Texas, but quietly builds its business on cheap salt and filler. They don't warn you. They don't put a skull and crossbones on the can. They let you believe you're buying tradition when you're really buying a health risk. And that's what makes it sting. We trusted it. We bought it for our beloved. We kept it in our pantries for storms and quick suppers. But trust like that should mean safety. It should mean honesty. Instead, what's hiding under that lid is a reminder that the grocery aisle is not always on your side. Wolf brand chili may feel like a warm memory, but the truth is harsher. That can on your shelf is less about heritage and more about hazard. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. 2 Nalley chili. The sound of the can opener is sharp, metal to metal. The lid bends back and out slides Nalley chili, once the pride of the Northwest. Families kept it for camping trips, quick dinners, even storm shelters. It used to mean comfort. But what's inside that can today is not the chili your parents knew. Step back from the kitchen table and picture the factory floor. Not pots simmering with beef, beans, and spice. Think instead of conveyor belts and industrial vats. Think of soy protein concentrate arriving in bulk 50-pound sacks of modified starch, truckloads of salt, all measured by the ton. Workers in hard hats aren't following a recipe, they are following a formula. The goal is not taste alone. The goal is consistency, efficiency, and cost control. Sodium plays the starring role. It is not just seasoning. In an assembly line, it is a preservative, a stabilizer, a mask. It guarantees a predictable flavor, even when the real ingredients are stretched thin. It lets cheaper fillers do the heavy lifting, while still tricking the tongue into believing it's hearty. Salt is the bridge between what the product once was and what the balance sheet demands it to be. The fillers are just as important. Soy flour and starch are inexpensive, plentiful, and stable in storage. Unlike beef, their prices don't spike with droughts or feed shortages. That stability makes them irresistible to corporations like Conagra, the giant that bought Nalley. What was once a local brand tied to Tacoma is now just one more line item in a portfolio managed for scale. When beef prices rise, more soy slips in. When flavor thins out, more sodium covers it. Each decision is rational, each lever predictable, and none of it is guided by tradition. It is guided by spreadsheets, commodity markets, and quarterly earnings calls. The chili you open is the output of a system where food is engineered like auto parts, interchangeable, optimized, stripped of character. This is why the numbers on the label look the way they do. Sodium levels surging above 1,100 milligrams per serving. Long lists of ingredients that would look strange on a handwritten recipe card. These aren't accidents. They're the math of industrial food written in milligrams and margins. The cost is not felt at the checkout line. It's carried quietly over years in rising blood pressure and overworked hearts in communities that trade tradition for convenience without realizing the trade has already been made for them. The can still carries the Nalley name, still wears the red and yellow. But what's inside is not heritage, it is logistics. That is the moral here. It isn't about one bad batch or one bad label. It's about how the system is built. What looks like chili is really the product of market forces that prize efficiency over flavor, stability over authenticity, and profit over health. The father at the table doesn't just serve dinner. He serves the outcome of an industry where food is not cooked, it is engineered. 3. Stagg chili. Stagg chili didn't begin as the cowboy giant it pretends to be today. Its story started back in the 1950s when a businessman named Clement Hirsch set up a small food company called Rocking K Foods. He eventually rebranded the line as Stagg, giving it a name meant to sound bold and rugged. 4 decades later, in the fall of 1996, Hormel Foods bought Stagg outright, paying tens of millions to fold the chili brand into its expanding portfolio. That was the turning point. Stagg was no longer a scrappy regional label. It was now another product in a corporate stable, one of many cans managed, scaled, and distributed nationwide. Since then, Hormel has dressed Stagg in many costumes: classic with beans, no beans dynamite, hot vegetarian garden, even turkey ranchero. The marketing language is carefully chosen. The cans talk of slow-simmered recipes, savory spices, juicy beef, zesty peppers. In 2024, the brand was even recognized in Canada as one of the most trusted names in its category, riding high on that aura of authenticity. But here's the irony. The cowboy image, the simmer slow promise, the trusted brand headline, none of it tells you where the chili actually comes from. It doesn't come from a ranch cookpot under desert stars. It comes from a processing plant run by one of the largest food corporations in America. The story on the front of the can is theater. The reality behind it is industrial logistics. That gap is where the customer gets caught. Walk down a grocery aisle and the variety feels endless. Stagg looks different from Wolf. Wolf looks different from Nalley. The shelves seem to offer choice, independence, personality. But the same parent companies manage them all, shaping what ends up in your cart. The cowboy label gives you identity. The system behind it gives you uniformity. Most shoppers don't see it. They don't have time to parse ownership charts or marketing copy. They just want dinner, and the brand makes them feel like they've picked something real. That's why the strategy works. The labels don't just compete for taste buds. They compete for trust, for memory, for imagination. And once a brand wins that ground, the details fade away. This isn't about one can of chili, it's about the design of consumerism itself. You think you're choosing freely, but the choices are curated long before you reach the aisle. You think you're buying authenticity, but often you're buying a story written to sound like authenticity. That's the root of the irony. Stagg calls itself cowboy chili, but the only trail it truly rides is the supermarket aisle, where one more label fills one more slot in a carefully arranged system. It looks rugged, it feels bold, and yet it's as choreographed as any corporate product. The cowboy is a mask, the can is a stage, and the story you're buying is not a recipe, it's an illusion of freedom. 4. Dennison's chili. For families along the West Coast, Dennison's chili was more than a can on the shelf. It was a name tied to Saturday football nachos, piled high in the living room, easy suppers after long days. The brand carried a regional pride. In California and the Southwest, you could count on a can of Dennison's to stand for something hearty, bold, and real. Older generations remember that chili well, thick with beef, slow-simmered flavor. A taste that felt closer to homemade than most other cans dared to be. It was the kind of pantry food you could trust to feel filling, not flimsy. That memory is powerful. For some, it's still tied to parents, to childhood kitchens, to gatherings now gone. But the chili that fills those memories is not the chili that fills today's cans. The label still says Dennison's. The colors are the same. Yet the recipe has shifted. Ingredient lists show soy protein concentrates and defatted soy flour where once beef carried the weight. Modified starches hold the texture. Sodium hovers high enough that one meal edges toward the daily limit recommended for older adults. The can looks the same, but the taste is engineered, managed corporate. Dennison's is no longer a regional name tied to California kitchens. It's a line item in Conagra's vast portfolio, sold alongside frozen dinners, snack cakes, and microwave meals. The chili inside the can is not the same chili that sat on a grandmother's shelf. It's been streamlined, standardized, optimized. The hearty bowl that once defined a generation's table has been reduced to a formula. That change cuts deeper for older Americans, because it isn't just about taste, it's about continuity. The comfort of knowing that what you pass down, recipes, routines, even brands, will be there for the next set of hands. When a familiar can changes, it stains those memories. It turns nostalgia into an ache. There's a larger truth hidden in this shift. It's not just that chili recipes evolve. It's that the food system no longer makes room for the old ways. Supermarket shelves move toward efficiency, not heritage. Marketing keeps the names alive, but what's inside rarely honors the past. In a quiet way, it tells older generations there's no longer a place set for them. The shelves aren't built for their memories. That is the emptiness Dennison's represents now. You can hold the can, you can see the label, but you cannot open it and taste the past again. The recipe is gone like so many other flavors from another time. And that's the lesson, as heavy as it is. The past cannot be recalled no more than a spoiled can can be made fresh again. All that remains is memory, and the reminder to guard those real moments while they last. Because just like chili, once tradition is canned and altered, you cannot bring it back. 5 Amy's Organic Chili. March of 2015. Federal inspectors sound the alarm. The concern is listeria, a bacteria that can hospitalize or even kill. By the end of the month, nearly 74,000 cases of Amy's products are recalled. Chili among them. 74,000 cases gone from shelves, pulled from kitchens, frozen dinners, suddenly unsafe. That is the fact, and the fact should not be forgotten. Because Amy's wasn't some bargain bin brand. It was built on an image of purity, organic, wholesome, safe. The kind of food you could pay a little more for and feel proud serving. That's what made the recall so striking. Behind the marketing, behind the soft colors and the health halo, reality had broken through. Imagine the ripple. A wife packing lunch thinking she's done right by her man. A retiree heating up a can for dinner, confident the organic label means less to worry about. A couple leaning on the freezer aisle for convenience, trusting that this brand at least keeps them safe. And then the news flashes, recall, contamination danger. The trust shattered in an instant. It didn't stop there. In 2022, workers inside Amy's own plant in Santa Rosa came forward with complaints. Dangerous conditions, injuries, machines run too fast for safety. A company known for comfort food now faces accusations of discomfort in the very place it was made. The image on the outside clashed with the reality within. Yes, the cans still line store shelves today. Yes, the labels still carry that organic seal, still speak the language of purity and care. But history makes one truth impossible to ignore. Labels are not shields. Recalls don't read marketing copy. Contamination doesn't care about the word organic. That's the danger you need to keep in focus. Because when those cans slip into your pantry, they don't arrive with a warning siren. They sit quietly, blending in with every other trusted staple. They look safe. They look better. Until the day they're not. This is the trap of modern food. Companies tell you stories, dress their products in virtue, lean on words like natural and organic to buy your confidence. But when something goes wrong, it's your table, your family, your health that pays the price. The company issues a statement. You deal with the consequences. So don't hand them that power. Don't assume that a label protects you. Don't mistake the image for reality. The recall proved otherwise. Amy's has sold itself as clean, safe, wholesome. But the headlines told another story. And that gap, the one between what you believe and what you're actually served, is where the danger lives. It's a hard thing opening pantry doors and seeing danger where we once saw comfort. 5 cans, 5 names, each carrying more risk than refuge. That weight is real. It lingers like the aftertaste of something bitter. But even in an aisle crowded with shadows, there are lights that cut through. Not every can is built on shortcuts. Not every label hides a trap. A few still carry the spirit of what chili was meant to be: simple, honest filling without fear. That's the part worth holding on to. Because this isn't just a story of loss, it's also a reminder of what remains. And if we choose carefully, if we learn to look beyond the noise, we can still find the brands that deserve a place in our kitchens. So after the warnings, here comes the relief. 2 names that still earn your trust. 6. Eden Food. For more than 50 years, while other brands drifted, one stayed steady. Eden never chased shortcuts. Eden never abandoned its roots. Every can still carries the spirit of that promise. The story begins in 1969 when a small co-op of friends in Michigan decided food should be different. At a time when companies were racing toward faster, cheaper, and more artificial, Eden went the opposite way. They chose organic. They chose clean. They chose to build trust in a way the rest of the industry had nearly forgotten. That commitment still shows in every can. Eden's chili isn't about tricks or fillers. No textured vegetable protein, no soy concentrate disguising itself as meat. Just beans grown on American family farms, vegetables pulled from organic soil spices that taste like they belong in a kitchen, not a lab. And even the cans themselves carry the mark of integrity. In 1999, long before BPA was a headline, Eden became the first food company in the United States to line its cans without BPA, BPS, or pH phthalates. They made that change quietly, not as a gimmick, but because it was the right thing to do. While others scrambled years later to catch up, Eden was already there. The flavor reflects that care. Their chili is rich without being heavy balanced, without leaning on mountains of salt. In fact, many of their recipes use half the sodium of competing brands, relying instead on real ingredients to carry the taste. That means older generations, especially those watching blood pressure and heart health, can still enjoy a hearty bowl without fear. But Eden's real strength is deeper than numbers. It's about consistency. Decade after decade, through fads and shortcuts and buyouts, the company has remained independent, family-owned, and guided by principle. When so many other names on the shelf became pawns in corporate mergers, Eden stayed Eden. That stability matters. It means what you hold in your hand today is a true continuation of what began over half a century ago. That is why Eden earns a place on the safe list. Not because it is flashy, not because it dominates the aisle, but because it proves trust can survive in the food industry. The label doesn't just tell a story, the company's history lives it. So after all the warnings, here's the relief: a can that does not hide, a can that does not cheat, a can that carries forward a tradition of honesty. In a world where so many names have slipped, Eden is held on. 7. Pacific Foods. There is one more name worth your shelf space, a name built less on slogans and more on proof. Pacific Foods. This company's story starts in 1987 in Tualatin, Oregon. Long before organic was a grocery buzzword, Pacific set out to do something harder: build a line of ready-to-eat foods with the same care you'd expect from a home kitchen. Their chili is only one example, but it carries the weight of their process, their philosophy, and their achievements. What sets Pacific apart isn't just what they put in the can, it's how they get it there. They rely on certified organic ingredients, beans, vegetables, and spices, grown without synthetic pesticides or genetically modified seed. Every recipe is designed in small batch kitchens before it's scaled, ensuring that flavor is tested and balanced long before it reaches the factory floor. And when it comes to packaging, Pacific was ahead of the curve. Instead of relying only on cans, they pioneered the use of Tetra Pak cartons for soups and broths packages that are lightweight, recyclable in many communities, and designed to keep food shelf-stable without chemical preservatives. That same commitment to better packaging extends across their product lines, setting a standard many competitors only copied years later. Their chili offerings, like the organic plant-based Harvest black bean chili, highlight that process. The recipe blends organic black beans with sweet potatoes, corn, and farro simmered with spices until thick and hearty. It's not about dumping salt into the pot to fake flavor. It's about layering vegetables and grains in a way that makes each spoonful complex, filling, and nourishing. Even the sodium count, though not perfect, often runs lower than mass-market rivals, proving that flavor doesn't need to drown in brine. Recognition followed. Pacific has been honored with non-GMO project verification, USDA organic certification, and consistent placement in lists of most trusted organic pantry staples by consumer advocacy groups. Their cartons have won awards for innovation in sustainable packaging, and their parent company, Campbell's, highlights Pacific as a growth engine precisely because of its credibility with health-conscious shoppers. But awards only tell part of the story. The real achievement is consistency. While other brands reformulate cut corners or chase trends, Pacific has stuck to its founding mission: simple recipes carefully sourced, responsibly packaged. That steadiness is why many nutritionists and food reviewers point to Pacific as a brand that older Americans, especially those juggling health concerns, can lean on without fear of hidden compromises. And in a world of processed food, process itself matters. Pacific publishes sourcing standards, commits to verified organic supply chains, and continues to reject shortcuts like MSG or artificial preservatives. They don't just sell chili, they sell proof that packaged food can still honor the principles of good cooking. For older viewers, this means more than flavor. It means safety, peace of mind, and dignity. You don't have to wonder if the can in your pantry is filled with fillers or hidden chemicals. You don't have to flinch when you read the label. With Pacific, the story matches the contents. That is the achievement worth remembering. Pacific didn't just win awards. It won trust, one carton at a time, one bowl at a time, one family at a time. So yes, there is still room for better choices. There are still cans and cartons that deserve your confidence. And when it comes to chili, Pacific Foods proves that careful process, honest sourcing, and real achievement are not lost arts. They are alive, simmering, and ready to serve. Thank you for staying with us through this whole journey. We know it was not easy. We opened the pantry and found more shadows than comfort. We faced 5 cans that didn't deserve your trust, and we held them up to the light. Then we found 2 that did things the right way, and we gave them space to breathe. If you are still here, it means you care about what goes on your table. We feel that. We respect that. Here's what matters now. You are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of a shelf or a slogan. You can read a label. You can search a recall. You can ask hard questions. You can choose brands that earn your trust instead of borrow it. That is how real safety begins. We will keep doing our part. We will keep digging, checking, and calling things by their real names. When a company cuts corners, we will say so. When a company does it right, we will say that too. We are here to help you see your food more clearly, one can at a time, one kitchen at a time. You are never alone in this. If today left you a little uneasy, that is okay. Let it sharpen your eye, not harden your heart. Keep a small list on the fridge. Keep a short rule in your head. Simple ingredients, honest process, real care. When in doubt, pause. The few extra seconds you spend choosing can spare you a world of worry later. Most of all, remember this: wisdom beats fear. You do not have to leave your health in a retailer's hands. You can take it back every time you shop, every time you cook, every time you open a can. We will be right here beside you, shining a light on what is safe and warning you when it is not. Until the next aisle, take good care.
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.